The sun beat down mercilessly on the parched land as the stagecoach rattled into Portland, Oregon, carrying Olivia Morgan along with her hopes, fears, and one weathered trunk containing everything she owned in the world. The year was 1873, and the worst drought in decades had turned the normally lush landscape into a wasteland of dust and desperation. Olivia pressed her handkerchief to her nose as the coach lurched to a halt, her stomach knotting with anxiety. This was not the green paradise promised in the letters from her soon-to-be husband. "Last stop, Portland," the driver called, his voice as dry as the cracked earth beneath the wheels. Olivia stepped down from the coach, her blue calico dress immediately gathering dust as she surveyed the town. Buildings stood defiantly against the harsh conditions. But the streets were eerily quiet. No children playing, no bustling market, just a few weary souls moving with purpose, conservation evident in their every step. "Miss Morgan?" A tall man approached, hat in hand. His face was weathered by sun and hardship, but his eyes a startling blue held kindness. "I'm Wade Parker. I reckon you're wondering what you've gotten yourself into." Olivia tried to hide her shock at his directness. "Mr. Parker, yes, Your letters describe the area quite differently." Wade ran a hand through his sun-bleached hair, a pained expression crossing his features. "The drought came sudden-like. Been nearly 7 months now. Everything changed." "I see." Olivia fought to keep her voice steady. She had left behind a life of servitude in Boston to marry a stranger in a place she'd never seen. There was no turning back now. "Well, Mr. Parker, I am here as agreed." Wade's gaze softened. "Miss Morgan, I understand if you want to break our arrangement. This isn't what I promised you." The honesty in his voice surprised her. She studied him more carefully, tall and lean, with capable hands and shoulders broadened by hard work. Not handsome in the conventional sense, but there was something compelling about his face. "Mr. Parker, I did not travel 2,000 miles to turn back at the first sign of hardship. I made a commitment." Relief washed over his face, followed quickly by determination. "Then I make you this promise right now." He stepped forward, taking her gloved hand in his calloused one. "We'll survive this together." Something shifted in Olivia's heart at those words. Not romantic love, not yet, but a seed of respect taking root in unexpected soil. Wade helped load her trunk into his wagon. "It's about an hour's ride to the ranch. Not much to look at these days, but it's home." As they traveled, Olivia observed the landscape with growing concern. Fields that should have been lush with crops lay barren and cracked. Cattle, thin and listless, gathered around dried-up watering holes. Farmhouses stood like islands in a sea of dust. "Your ranch is it in similar condition?" she asked quietly. Wade's hands tightened on the reins. "It's struggling. I've got a well that's still producing, but the level drops every week. The cattle are hungry. Had to sell half my herd already. And yet you still sent for me." He glanced at her, expression unreadable. "A man makes promises, Miss Morgan. I promised to marry you, to give you a home. Drought doesn't change that." They rode in silence for a while, the rhythmic creaking of the wagon wheels filling the space between them. "Tell me about your family, Mr. Parker," Olivia finally said, wanting to know more about the man she had agreed to marry. "Lost my pa to fever when I was 16. Ma passed 3 winters ago. Got a younger brother, Henry, who headed to California last year. It's just me now." His voice was matter-of-fact, without self-pity. "I'm sorry for your losses," Olivia said softly. Wade nodded his acknowledgement. "What about you? Your letters didn't say much beyond that you were working as a lady's companion." "There's not much to tell. My parents died in a fire when I was 12. I grew up in an orphanage until I was old enough to work. I've been in service ever since." She smoothed her skirts. "When I saw your advertisement for a bride, it seemed like a chance for something of my own." Wade's expression softened. "Well, it might not look like much now, but the ranch is yours as much as mine once we're married." They crested a hill, and Wade pointed. "There it is, Parker Ranch." Below them stretched a modest homestead, a sturdy 2-story house, a barn, corrals, and outbuildings. In better times, it would have been surrounded by green pastures and thriving livestock. Now it stood defiant against the drought, a testament to its owner's determination. "It's lovely," Olivia said, and meant it. Despite the harsh conditions, she could see the care that had gone into building this place. Wade looked at her skeptically. "You don't have to pretend, Miss Morgan." "I'm not pretending," she met his gaze directly. "I see a home that has weathered storms before and will again. I see possibility." Something like hope flickered across his face. "Well then, welcome home." The next few days passed in a whirlwind of adjustments. Olivia learned the rhythms of ranch life, how to conserve every drop of water, how to stretch meals, how to tend the small kitchen garden that Wade had somehow kept alive through careful rationing of well water. They were to be married by the circuit preacher, who would arrive in 3 weeks' time. Until then, Olivia slept in the main bedroom, while Wade took the small room that had once belonged to his brother. On her 4th morning, Olivia rose before dawn. She found Wade at the kitchen table, poring over account books by lamplight, his face drawn with worry. "May I?" she asked, gesturing to the books. Surprised, he nodded. Olivia pulled up a chair and studied the figures. "You've been selling cattle at a loss," she observed. "No choice. Can't feed them, can't water them properly. Better to get something than watch them die." Olivia tapped a column of figures. "But if you consolidated these payments and delayed these..." She outlined a plan that might extend their resources another 2 months. Wade stared at her in astonishment. "Where did you learn to manage accounts like this?" "Mrs. Harrington, the lady I served in Boston, was widowed young. She taught me bookkeeping so I could help with her husband's business affairs." Olivia smiled faintly. She believed women should understand money matters. "Smart woman," Wade said with new respect in his voice. "I've been so focused on the day-to-day struggle. I haven't had time to look at the bigger picture." They spent the morning revising his financial strategy. By midday, they had a plan that might see them through another 3 months of drought if they were careful, if nothing else went wrong. "Thank you," Wade said as they finished. "I've been carrying this alone for so long. It's good to have someone to share the burden with." "That's what partnership is, isn't it?" Olivia replied. "We'll survive this together, isn't that what you promised?" His smile transformed his face, making him suddenly, unexpectedly handsome. "So I did." That evening, they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the dusty landscape in shades of gold and crimson. The heat of the day was finally yielding to a cooler night breeze. "It must be beautiful when it's green," Olivia mused. "It is." Wade's voice grew animated as he described the land in springtime meadows carpeted with wildflowers, creeks running clear and cold, cattle grazing on lush grass. "You can smell the earth coming alive after the winter. There's nothing like it. I hope I'll see it someday." Wade turned to her, his expression serious. "You will. This drought will break eventually. All we have to do is hold on." "Tell me more about your ranch," Olivia encouraged. "How did your family come to settle here?" Wade relaxed against the porch railing, and the stories began to flow. He told her about his grandfather, who had traveled the Oregon Trail, about his father, who had built the house with his own hands, about his mother, who had planted the apple trees that now stood dormant but alive behind the house. "You love this place," Olivia observed. "It's in my blood," Wade admitted. "Even at its worst, I can't imagine being anywhere else." He hesitated. "Does that seem foolish to you?" "No," Olivia said thoughtfully. "I've never had a home to love like that, but I understand devotion." The next morning, disaster struck. One of the ranch hands, Miguel, came running to the house with news that part of the well structure had collapsed. Wade was gone before Olivia could process what was happening. She followed at a distance, arriving at the well to find a flurry of activity. Wade and 3 ranch hands were working frantically to clear debris while maintaining the integrity of the remaining structure. "Miss Morgan, you shouldn't be here," called Tom, the oldest of the hands. "It's not safe." "What can I do to help?" she asked, ignoring his concern. "We need more rope from the barn," Wade called without looking up, "and bring water for the men." Olivia moved quickly, gathering the supplies and returning to distribute water to the sweating workers. The sun climbed higher, beating down mercilessly as the men fought to save their precious water source. By mid-afternoon, Wade emerged from the well, his face streaked with dirt and sweat, exhaustion evident in every line of his body. "We've stabilized it," he reported, accepting a ladle of water from Olivia. "But the water level's lower than I've ever seen it. We need to be even more careful now." That night, after a simple supper of beans and cornbread, Olivia found Wade sitting alone on the porch steps, staring at nothing. "May I join you?" she asked softly. He nodded, making room for her beside him. "What if it doesn't rain?" he asked after a long silence. "What if this is the end of everything my family built?" Olivia considered her words carefully. "Then we'll start again, somewhere else if necessary." Wade looked at her, surprise evident on his face. "We? You've known me less than a week, Miss Morgan. You don't have to tie your fate to mine. I made my choice when I stepped off that stagecoach, Mr. Parker." She met his gaze steadily. "Unless you're having second thoughts." "No," he said quickly. I want you to have a good life. I promised you that in my letters." "Life doesn't always give us what we expect," Olivia replied. "But I believe we can build something good here, drought or no drought." Wade studied her face in the dim light. "You're not what I expected, Olivia Morgan." "Is that a disappointment?" "No," he said softly. "It's a pleasant surprise." The next morning brought a new challenge. A rider from a neighboring ranch arrived with news that cattle thieves were operating in the area, taking advantage of the drought's chaos to steal weakened livestock. "They hit the Johnson place last night," the rider reported. "Took 20 head. Johnson's organizing a posse to track them." Wade's jaw tightened. "I can't leave the ranch right now." "I can manage things here," Olivia interrupted. "You should go." Both men looked at her in surprise. "Miss Morgan, running a ranch during a drought isn't like keeping house in Boston," Wade said gently. "I'm aware of the differences, Mr. Parker." Olivia's chin lifted. "Miguel can help with the heavy work. I can oversee the rest. You need to protect what livestock we have left." The rider shifted uncomfortably. "Johnson's gathering men at noon." Wade looked torn. Finally, he nodded. "I'll be there." Turning to Olivia, he added, "If you're certain." "I am," she assured him. "Go." Wade was gone for 3 days. Olivia threw herself into ranch management, working alongside Miguel to maintain the well, check on the remaining cattle, and keep the household running. She discovered muscles she never knew she had and a strength of will that surprised even her. On the evening of the 3rd day, she was preparing supper when she heard hoofbeats in the yard. Heart pounding, she hurried outside. Wade dismounted wearily, his clothes dusty, a dark stubble covering his jaw. For a moment, they simply looked at each other across the yard. "The thieves?" Olivia finally asked. "We caught them. They won't be troubling anyone again." His voice was flat, and Olivia sensed there was more to the story than he was sharing. "Are you hurt?" Wade shook his head. "Just tired, and hungry if there's food to be had." Over a simple meal of stew and the last of the bread, Wade gradually relaxed enough to share details of the pursuit. The thieves had been desperate men from a failed farm, 2 counties over, not hardened criminals, just hungry people who had lost everything. "The sheriff's got them now," Wade concluded, "but it could have been any of us, pushed far enough." "That's why what we're doing matters," Olivia said. "Holding on, not giving in to desperation." Wade studied her across the table. "You've been busy while I was gone." Olivia felt a flush of pride. "Miguel and I reinforced the well housing, and I reorganized the storehouse. We had more preserved goods than I realized. The men said you worked alongside them, dawn to dusk." There was something new in his voice, admiration perhaps. "It needed doing," Olivia said simply. Later, as they sat on the porch in what had become their evening ritual, Wade turned to her with unexpected intensity. "Olivia, I need to ask you something." Her heart quickened at his use of her first name. "Yes?" "This arrangement between us, it started as a practical matter. You needed a home, I needed a wife to help run this place." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "But these past days, seeing you fight for this ranch like it was your own, it's made me wonder if there could be more between us than just practical considerations." Olivia felt warmth spread through her that had nothing to do with the lingering heat of the day. "I've wondered the same thing." Wade took her hand gently. "I can't offer you much right now. This drought has taken almost everything. But I can promise you this. Whatever comes, good or bad, we'll face it together." "That's all anyone can promise," Olivia replied softly. And it's enough. The following weeks brought new challenges. The well continued to drop. 2 more cattle died, despite their best efforts. The garden withered further under the relentless sun. But something else was growing. The connection between Wade and Olivia deepened with each shared struggle, each small victory, each quiet conversation under the stars. By the time the circuit preacher arrived, they were no longer strangers embarking on a practical arrangement, but partners who had chosen each other deliberately. They were married on a Tuesday morning, a simple ceremony with the ranch hands as witnesses. Olivia wore her best dress, the blue calico from her arrival, carefully cleaned and pressed. Wade had somehow managed to find wildflowers, their resilience in the drought a fitting symbol for the occasion. "You make a handsome couple," Preacher Davis said after the ceremony. "I've married folks who've known each other for years, who don't look at each other the way you two do." That night, alone in what was now their bedroom, Olivia felt a sudden shyness descend. Wade sensed her nervousness and sat beside her on the edge of the bed. "We've faced cattle thieves and collapsing wells together," he said gently. "But this is different, isn't it?" Olivia nodded. "In Boston, there was an opportunity for—" "We have time," Wade assured her, taking her hand. "All the time we need." His patience and tenderness that night revealed yet another side of him, a gentleness that balanced his frontier strength. By morning, Olivia had discovered that love could be both fierce and tender, passionate and sweet. A week after their wedding, dark clouds finally appeared on the horizon. Everyone on the ranch paused in their tasks, hardly daring to hope. "Could be just a tease," Tom cautioned. "Seeing clouds like that pass right over without dropping a single drop." But Wade's eyes held a spark of hope. Barometers falling, winds shifted. "This feels different." That evening, the first raindrops fell fat, heavy drops that kicked up dust where they landed. Olivia and Wade stood on the porch, watching in disbelief as the sprinkle became a shower, then a steady soaking rain. Wade let out a whoop of joy that Olivia had never heard from him before. He grabbed her hand, pulling her out into the downpour. Water streamed down their faces as they turned their faces to the sky. "Dance with me, Mrs. Parker," Wade laughed, drawing her into his arms. They spun through the mud, clothes soaked, hair plastered to their heads, laughing like children. The ranch hands joined the celebration, whooping and hollering, everyone drunk on the miracle of water from the sky after so many months of drought. The rain continued through the night. By morning, small rivulets had formed in the yard, and the parched earth had turned to mud. It wasn't enough to end the drought, not yet, but it was hope made tangible. Standing together at the bedroom window, watching the continuing rainfall, Wade slipped his arm around Olivia's waist. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "when I sent for a bride, I was looking for a practical woman who could help run a ranch. I never expected to find someone who would teach me about courage and hope." Olivia leaned into his embrace. "And I was looking for security and a place to belong. I never expected to find a partner I could admire. And love." Wade's arm tightened around her. "Say that again." "I love you, Wade Parker." The words felt right, natural. "I think I started falling in love with you that first day, when you promised we'd survive this together." Wade turned her to face him, his eyes bright with emotion. "I love you too, Olivia Parker. More than I thought possible." The drought didn't end overnight. The rain lasted 2 days, enough to replenish the well and bring a hint of green to the parched earth, but the hard times continued through the summer. However, something fundamental had changed. Hope had returned to Parker Ranch, along with a deeper understanding between its owners. By autumn, more regular rains had finally come. The land began its slow recovery, and so did the ranch's fortunes. Wade and Olivia worked side by side, rebuilding what had been lost, planning for the future. On a crisp October morning, as they surveyed new calves in the recovering pastures, Olivia shared her news. "Wade, I need to tell you something." She took his hand and placed it gently over her stomach. "We'll need to prepare the small bedroom. We'll have a new Parker joining us by spring." Wade's expression transformed from confusion to wonder. He lifted Olivia off her feet in a gentle embrace, his joy too great for words. That evening, sitting on their porch as the sun set over land that was gradually returning to life, Wade reflected on the journey that had brought them here. When you stepped off that stagecoach into the worst drought in memory, I thought you'd turn right around and leave, he admitted. I considered it, Olivia confessed with a smile, for about 5 seconds. Wade took her hand, his thumb tracing over her wedding band. What made you stay? Olivia thought about it. You did. The way you looked me in the eye and said we'd survive this together. You didn't make false promises or pretend things weren't bad. You offered partnership in the face of hardship. That was something I'd never had before. Wade nodded thoughtfully. The drought taught me something important. All my life, I thought strength meant handling everything alone, not asking for help, not showing weakness. He squeezed her hand. You taught me that real strength is found in standing together. Spring arrived in a riot of green. The apple trees behind the house burst into bloom, and wildflowers carpeted meadows that had been dust the previous year. Olivia, her belly now swollen with child, finally saw the Parker Ranch as Wade had described it the first evening alive, vibrant, full of possibility. Their son, James Thomas Parker, was born on a perfect May morning, entering the world with a lusty cry that made the midwife laugh. He's got his father's determination, the woman declared as she placed the red-faced infant in Olivia's arms. Wade, allowed into the room at last, approached the bed with uncharacteristic hesitation. When Olivia held out their son to him, his hands trembled slightly as he took the small bundle. "Hello, son," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. "Welcome to Parker Ranch. Your mother and I have been waiting for you." Olivia watched the man she had married first out of necessity, then out of love, cradle their child with infinite tenderness. The journey from strangers to lovers to family had been marked by hardship, but those challenges had forged something precious and unbreakable between them. By James's first birthday, the ranch was thriving again. New cattle grazed in lush pastures, the storehouses were full, and the well flowed strong and steady. Wade had even hired 2 more hands to help with the expanding operation. On a warm evening, as James practiced his wobbly walking between them on the porch, Wade shared his latest plan. "I've been thinking about diversifying planting wheat in the north section, maybe adding some sheep." His eyes were alight with possibilities. "The drought taught me not to rely too heavily on any one thing." "That sounds wise," Olivia agreed, "and perhaps we should set aside more of the profits each month, for the next dry spell." Wade nodded. "And for James's future, and any brothers or sisters who might come along." Olivia smiled, leaning against his shoulder. "I like the sound of that." James toddled to the edge of the porch, pointing excitedly at a rabbit hopping across the yard. Wade scooped him up before he could attempt the stairs. "Look at that, son. That's part of your heritage. All of this," he gestured to the land stretching before them. "This is Parker land. Someday it'll be yours to care for." Olivia watched her husband and son, her heart full. 5 years earlier, she had been alone in Boston, with no family and little hope for more than a life of service. Now she stood on land that was partly hers, with a husband who loved her, and a son who represented their shared future. "What are you thinking?" Wade asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. "I was remembering what you said when I arrived during the drought. We'll survive this together." Olivia smiled. "We did more than survive, Wade. We built something beautiful." Wade shifted James to one arm so he could pull Olivia close with the other. "And we're just getting started, Mrs. Parker, just getting started." As the sun set over Parker Ranch, painting the thriving land in hues of gold and amber, Olivia thought about the twist of fate that had brought her to this place at precisely the wrong time, or perhaps, as it turned out, exactly the right time. For it was in weathering the storm together that she and Wade had discovered not just survival, but love, partnership, and a future brighter than either could have imagined. The drought that had threatened everything had, in the end, given them the greatest gift of all the knowledge that together they could weather any storm that life might bring their way.